What if the secret to real power isn't about what you gain, but what you lose? We're about to dive into a pretty counterintuitive idea, one inspired by Machiavelli, that really flips our whole understanding of strength on its head. So let's get right into it. Just think about that for a second. We're all taught that power is something you build, right? You add skills, you add titles, you add influence. But what if the real source of power is actually a subtraction? What if it's all about getting rid of that one thing that secretly controls almost everyone else? And right here, this is the fundamental divide. On one side, you've got most people. Their behavior is, without them even realizing it, programmed by fear. It's what causes all that hesitation, that second guessing. It makes them follow these invisible rules they never even signed up for. But then on the other side, you've got this small group of people who just operate differently. Their actions are precise because they aren't being filtered through that layer of fear. They operate beyond those limits. Okay, so to really get this, we first have to recognize the system itself. And we're not talking about something supernatural here. We're talking about a hidden force that shapes our behavior every single day, usually without us even noticing. This is where we gotta reframe how we think about fear. This isn't about being scared of the dark. Think of fear more like an operating system running in the background of your mind. It's a program that quietly restricts your choices and sets your boundaries long before you're even consciously aware you're making a decision. And here's the sneaky part, how it hides in plain sight. It doesn't pop up and scream, "I'm fear." No, it disguises itself as logic or being cautious. It's that little voice telling you, "Nah, don't rock the boat." It's what makes you stay quiet in a meeting when you absolutely have the better idea. It's the force that makes you tolerate things you shouldn't just to avoid a little conflict.
Machiavelli totally nailed this centuries ago. He knew that we all like to think we're guided by these noble ideals, but the truth is, we're usually guided by pressure. And fear is the most effective pressure there is. Because once it's installed in your head, you start to regulate yourself. Nobody else has to do a thing.
So if fear is this internal system, this program, how in the world do you uninstall it? Well, the answer isn't to fight it head on. It's about methodically, piece by piece, changing your internal state until fear just doesn't have any power over you anymore. You know, we have this idea that bravery is this big performance, a loud, bold act for everyone to see. But that kind of bravery is fragile. It depends on having an audience. The reality of true power is something much quieter. Detachment. It's a stable, internal state where fear simply loses its authority. You're not gritting your teeth and pushing through fear. You're operating from a place where fear isn't the dominant signal anymore. Now, this leads to a goal that sounds, well, pretty intense. Emotional death. But hold on. It's not about becoming some unfeeling robot, not at all. It's about removing emotional interference. It's about getting to a place where your actions aren't all muddied up by doubt or anxiety or what other people might think. Your actions just become clean, direct, and incredibly precise. Machiavelli saw this as the core conflict that traps most people. You're either driven by the need for love and approval, or you're paralyzed by the fear of judgment and loss. The truly powerful person, they learn to step outside of that entire tug of war. The approval trap is a perfect example of this in action. Just look at the steps. You have a clear decision you need to make. But then that filter kicks in. Wait, how is this going to look to other people? And boom. Instantly, you soften your position, you add a bunch of buts and maybes, and you completely lose that clean line of action. All your clarity just evaporates. All right, so how do we actually get there? It's not going to happen just by thinking about it or reading a book. It happens through action. This part is all about the practical, deliberate training it takes to forge your will. And this is a really crucial distinction we need to make. Most advice you hear is about managing fear, but that's like trying to negotiate with your limits. It keeps the root of the problem right where it is. The goal isn't to manage fear, it's to eliminate its authority, to totally remove it from the decision-making process. That's what creates permanent freedom, not just some temporary burst of courage. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? This is what separates the effective from the ineffective. The fool, well, he eventually does what's necessary, but only after dragging his feet, wasting time, and probably making things worse. The wise person acts immediately. They move right through the discomfort without hesitating because they know that delay is its own kind of poison. This all leads to a very practical mindset, detaching yourself from the outcome. Your identity is not tied to whether you win or lose, succeed or fail. Your only role is to execute, and execute with precision. The result? That's just data. It's just feedback. When you can truly internalize this, the fear of failure, which is the source of so much hesitation, it just vanishes. So, what happens when all this internal work starts to compound? Well, it begins to have a very real, very tangible external effect. This is the final stage, where your internal state actually starts to shape the environment and the people around you.
Let's redefine a word that has a lot of baggage: ruthlessness. I want you to forget the image of a cartoon villain. In this context, ruthlessness is a discipline. It is the focused ability to act with clean, surgical precision, completely free from emotional static, at the exact moment of truth. It's all about timing and accuracy, not cruelty. And that brings us to maybe the most famous and most misunderstood of Machiavelli's lines. This isn't a guide to becoming a tyrant. It's a cold, strategic calculation. See, love is fickle. It depends on you constantly giving people what they want. But fear, in the sense of a deep respect for consequence, creates consistent, predictable behavior in others. It's about creating stability. So how is this powerful presence actually created? It's subtle stuff. It's using controlled silence in a conversation, letting other people rush to fill the void and reveal what they're really thinking. It's acting on a timetable that nobody else can predict, breaking their rhythm. It's remaining completely emotionally stable when other people are trying to provoke you. Your actions start to imply the consequences, so you never even have to say them out loud. So ultimately, it really just comes down to this choice, these two paths. On the left, you have a life of reaction. It's a life constantly being shaped by external pressures, by fear, by the need for approval. It's a life spent avoiding discomfort and waiting for permission. And on the right, you have a life of decision, a life shaped by your own internal clarity, where you move through pressure and you act without hesitation, because fear is just no longer in the driver's seat. And the final question then isn't really about Machiavelli at all. It's about you. If you're being honest with yourself and you look at your own decisions, your own hesitations, which one of these two paths is truly shaping your life right now?